Skillful Means, Chapter 2.
Chapter 2, Skillful Means, explains that the teachings of all Buddhas are merely skillful means meant to prepare living beings for the realization of Buddhahood. This chapter includes a famous scene in which 5,000 bhikṣus, bhikṣuṇīs, upāsakas, and upāsikās withdraw from the assembly when they hear this Dharma, indicating that they are not ready for the teaching. The Buddha winnows the assembly in this way so that he can impart the teaching to those who are ready for it. At this point, Śāriputra is the only one that awakens to the Buddha's teaching. Another essential significance of the Dharma Lotus Sūtra, elucidated by the Chinese Tiantai School, is found in the 10 thusnesses. The 10 thusnesses constitute a comprehensive view of things beyond the boundary of one-sidedness. The 10 thusnesses contain a harmonizing theory, extending one element to the infinite and encompassing all. The 10 thusnesses are present in the Buddha realm as well as the other 9 realms of the Bodhisattvas, Śrāvakas, Pratyekabuddhas, gods, humans, asuras, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings. Within each realm, all the other realms are also present, resulting in 100 realms. Each of the 100 realms embraces not only every other realm, but also the 10 thusnesses, leading to the notion of 100 Dharma realms and 1,000 thusnesses.
At that time, the world-honored one emerged serenely from samadhi and said to Śāriputra, "The wisdom of the Buddhas is exceptionally profound and infinite. The gateway to this wisdom is difficult to understand and difficult to enter. None of the Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas are capable of understanding it. What is the reason? In the past, the Buddhas drew near to countless billions of kotis of other Buddhas, practicing all those Buddhas' infinite dharmas of the path. They forged ahead with courage and vigor, and their names were known everywhere. They realized the most profound, unprecedented dharma. Although they explain it according to what is appropriate, its meaning is difficult to understand. Śāriputra, since attaining Buddhahood, I have extensively expounded the teachings through various causes and conditions, as well as various parables. Through countless skillful means, I have led living beings away from their attachments. Why is this? The Tathagatas have perfected skillful means, knowledge and vision, and the paramitas. Śāriputra, the knowledge and vision of the Tathagatas are vast, profound, and far-reaching. They are measureless and free of impediment. Their powers, fearlessness, meditative concentration, liberations, and samadhis have infinite depths. They have perfected all unprecedented dharmas. Śāriputra, the Tathagatas are able to offer a variety of analytical explanations while skillfully expounding all dharmas. Their gentle speech brings delight to the hearts of the multitudes. Śāriputra, to put it briefly, the Buddhas have fully accomplished countless, numberless, unprecedented dharmas. Enough. Śāriputra, I will say no more. Why? As to that foremost, rarest, and hard-to-understand Dharma accomplished by the Buddha, the ultimate reality of all phenomena, only the Buddha and the other Buddhas can fully understand it. The characteristics of all phenomena are thus, their natures are thus, their substances are thus, their karmic forces are thus, their actions are thus, their causes are thus, their conditions are thus, their results are thus, their consequences are thus, and their ultimate equality from beginning to end is thus. At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke in verse. Unfathomable are the heroes of the worlds. Neither the gods and people in the worlds, nor any class of living beings, can understand the Buddhas. The Buddha's powers, fearlessness, liberations, various samadhis, and the Buddha's other dharmas can be fathomed by no one. In the past, following countless Buddhas, I perfectly walked all the paths. These profound, subtle, and wonderful dharmas are difficult to encounter and difficult to understand. Through countless kotis of eons, I walked down these paths. At the sight of awakening, I attained spiritual fruition and fully knew and saw all. The principles relating to the great results and consequences, to the various natures and characteristics, are such that only I and the Buddhas of the 10 directions can understand them. This Dharma cannot be explained. Words fail to express its meaning. Of all the other classes of beings, none can understand it, except for the assembly of Bodhisattvas, of resolute and unwavering faith. None are able to comprehend this. Even the assembled disciples of the Buddhas, who have made offerings to the Buddhas, who have ended all outflows, and who are in their final incarnation, have insufficient capacity. Even if the world were filled with those like Śāriputra, all seeking together to understand it, they still could not fathom the Buddha's wisdom. Suppose the 10 directions were filled with those like Śāriputra, while the other disciples also filled the lands in the 10 directions, and that together they pondered the Buddha's wisdom. They too would not be able to understand it. If Pratyekabuddhas of keen wisdom, their outflows ended and their incarnation final, likewise filled the realms of the 10 directions, numbering as many as bamboos in a grove, put their minds together, reflecting upon the Buddha's ultimate wisdom, for countless kotis of eons, they would know it not a whit. Suppose bodhisattvas of new resolve, having made offerings to countless Buddhas, understand the meanings of the Dharma, and can expound the teachings with eloquence. Suppose they filled the lands in the 10 directions, numerous as rice, hemp, bamboo, and reeds. If with their collective ingenious wisdom they were to ponder it together, throughout eons as many as the Ganges sands, still they wouldn't comprehend the Buddha's wisdom. Suppose bodhisattvas who remain steadfast, numerous as grains of sand in the Ganges, make concerted efforts to understand. They too could not comprehend it. And what is more, Śāriputra, that inconceivable Dharma, free of outflows, most profound and subtle, I have completely attained. I know its character, as do the Buddhas in the 10 directions. Śāriputra, you should know that the words of all Buddhas do not differ. You should bring forth a great faith in the Dharma thus expounded by the Buddhas. After a world-honored one has taught for a long time, he must impart the ultimate truth. I announced to the assembly of Śrāvakas and those seeking the vehicle of Pratyekabuddhas that I would lead them to cast off the bonds of suffering and to reach nirvana. The Buddha, through the power of skillful means, has presented the teaching of the 3 vehicles. Though beings cling to everything, he leads them to find a way out. At that time, there were 1,200 Śrāvakas in the assembly, including Ajñata Kaundinya and other arhats, all of whom had attained freedom from outflows. Also present in the assembly were bhikṣus, bhikṣuṇīs, upāsakas, and upāsikas, who had resolved to become Śrāvakas or Pratyekabuddhas. Each of them had the following thought: why now does the world-honored one earnestly praise the use of skillful means, saying, "The Dharma that a Buddha realizes is extremely profound and difficult to understand"? The purport of what he says is difficult to fathom, such that none of the Śrāvakas or Pratyekabuddhas can grasp it. The Buddha has previously taught but one principle of liberation, and we have already attained this Dharma and arrived at nirvana. Now we do not understand his intention. At that time, Śāriputra, knowing the doubts in the minds of the fourfold assembly, and himself not completely understanding either, said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, for what reason have you earnestly praised the Buddha's foremost skillful means, the exceptionally profound, subtle, and wonderful Dharma that is difficult to understand? In the past, I have never heard the Buddha speak in such a way. Those of the fourfold assembly now have doubts. I sincerely hope that the world-honored one will expound on this subject. Why has the world-honored one earnestly praised the exceptionally profound, subtle, and wonderful Dharma that is difficult to understand?" At that time, Śāriputra, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke in verse: "O son of wisdom, great honored sage, long have you waited to teach this Dharma, to proclaim your attainment of powers, fearlessness, samadhis, meditative concentration, liberations, and other inconceivable dharmas. Concerning the Dharma attained at the site of awakening, no one is able to raise a question. Given our intellects, it is hard to fathom, and none of us can ask about it. So you teach unasked, praising both the path you have walked and the wisdom, subtle and superb, attained by all Buddhas. All the arhats free of outflows and those who seek nirvana have now fallen into a web of doubt. Why has the Buddha said this? Those bhikṣus and bhikṣuṇīs who seek to be Pratyekabuddhas, gods, dragons, ghosts, spirits, Gandharvas, and others, look at one another perplexed and gaze upward at the Venerable One of dual perfection. What is the meaning of this? We hope the Buddha will explain it to us. Among the assembly of Śrāvakas, the Buddha has declared me foremost. Yet now with my own wisdom, I cannot resolve my doubts. What is the ultimate Dharma? What is the path to be walked? Disciples born from the Buddha's mouth, with palms joined, anxiously gaze in expectation. Please, in a subtle and wonderful voice, explain ultimate reality to us. The gods, dragons, spirits, and others, their numbers like the Ganges sands, Bodhisattvas seeking Buddhahood, numbering a full 80,000, and wheel-turning sage kings arriving from 10,000 kotis of lands, with joined palms and reverent hearts, all wish to hear of the perfect path. At that time, the Buddha said to Śāriputra, "Enough, enough, I will say no more. If I were to speak of this matter, the gods and humans throughout the worlds would be alarmed and doubtful." Śāriputra again addressed the Buddha, saying, "World-honored one, we sincerely hope that you will explain it. We sincerely hope that you will explain it. What is the reason? In this assembly are innumerable billions of kotis of asamkheyas of beings who have seen the Buddhas. Their faculties are keen and their wisdom is bright. Hearing what the Buddha says, they will respect and believe it." At that time, Śāriputra, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke in verse: "Dharma King, supremely honored one, do speak without hesitation. For within this assembly of innumerable multitudes, there are those who are able to respect and believe. The Buddha again stopped Śāriputra. If I were to explain this matter, the gods, humans, and asuras throughout the worlds would be alarmed and doubtful. Those bhikṣus of overbearing pride would fall into a great chasm. At that time, the world-honored one restated his meaning in verse. Enough, enough, I will say no more. My Dharma is wonderful beyond comprehension. If those of overbearing pride were to hear it, surely they would neither respect nor believe it. At that time, Śāriputra again addressed the Buddha, saying, World-honored one, we sincerely hope that you will explain it. We sincerely hope that you will explain it. Within the present assembly, there are billions of kotis of beings who are like me and have been receiving the Buddha's teachings life after life. Such people will surely be able to bring forth reverent faith and gain peace and great benefit throughout the long night. At that time, Śāriputra, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke in verse. Unsurpassed Venerable One of dual perfection, please teach the Supreme Dharma. I, the Buddha's foremost disciple, sincerely hope that you will explain it in detail. The countless multitudes here assembled can respect and believe this Dharma, for the Buddha has, in life after life, taught and transformed all of us. All 1,200 of us and others who seek Buddhahood, attentively with palms joined, wish to hear the Buddha's words. Please, for those assembled here, explain it to us in detail. Greatly will we rejoice on hearing this Dharma. Thereupon, the world-honored one said to Śāriputra, Since you have earnestly requested 3 times, how can I not explain it? So now listen attentively and think it over carefully. I will explain it to you at length. As he said these words, 5,000 bhikṣus, bhikṣuṇīs, upāsakas, and upāsikās in the assembly rose from their seats, made obeisance to the Buddha, and withdrew. What was the reason? Their unwholesome roots were deep and weighty. Furthermore, they displayed overbearing pride, claiming to have attained what they had not yet attained, and to have realized what they had not yet realized. With faults such as these, they could not stay. The world-honored one remained silent, making no attempt to stop them. The Buddha then said to Śāriputra, My assembly has now been cleared of its branches and leaves, leaving behind only those true and steadfast in their faith. Śāriputra, it is excellent that those of overbearing pride have withdrawn. You should now listen carefully, as I will lecture to you. Śāriputra said, So be it, world-honored one, we joyously anticipate your lecture. The Buddha said to Śāriputra, A wonderful Dharma such as this is taught only occasionally by the Buddhas, Tathagatas, just as the Udambara flower appears but once in a great while. Śāriputra, you should all have faith in what the Buddhas say, for their words are true. Śāriputra, all the Buddhas teach the Dharma in accord with what is appropriate, and its meaning is difficult to understand. What is the reason? I explain all dharmas by means of countless skillful means, various causes and conditions, parables, and expressions. These dharmas cannot be understood through deliberation or analysis. Only the Buddhas can understand them. Why is this? All the Buddhas, the world-honored ones, appear in the world solely for the sake of the one great matter. Śāriputra, what is meant by all Buddhas, world-honored ones, appear in the world solely for the sake of the one great matter? The Buddhas, world-honored ones, appear in the world because they wish to lead living beings to unfold the knowledge and vision of the Buddhas in order to reveal their inherent purity. They appear in the world because they wish to show living beings the Buddha's knowledge and vision. They appear in the world because they wish to awaken living beings to the Buddha's knowledge and vision. They appear in the world because they wish to lead living beings to realize the path to the Buddha's knowledge and vision. Śāriputra, these are the causes and conditions of the one great matter for which all Buddhas appear in the world. The Buddha said to Śāriputra, all Buddhas, the Tathagatas, intend to teach only Bodhisattvas. Everything they do is always directed to the purpose of showing living beings the Buddha's knowledge and vision, and awakening them to that knowledge and vision. Śāriputra, the Tathagatas teach living beings the Dharma only by means of the Buddha vehicle. There are no other vehicles, neither two nor three. Śāriputra, the Dharma of all Buddhas throughout the 10 directions is also like this. Śāriputra, the Buddhas of the past, by means of countless, innumerable skillful means, various causes and conditions, parables and expressions, have expounded the Dharma to living beings. These Dharmas were taught to prepare them for the Buddha vehicle. These living beings, having heard the Dharma from the Buddhas, will ultimately attain omniscient wisdom. Śāriputra, when the Buddhas of the future come into the world, they will also, by means of countless innumerable skillful means, various causes and conditions, parables and expressions, expound the Dharma to living beings. These Dharmas will be taught to prepare them for the Buddha vehicle. These living beings, after hearing the Dharma from the Buddhas, will ultimately obtain omniscient wisdom. Śāriputra, presently all Buddhas, world-honored ones, throughout the 10 directions in countless billions of kotis of Buddha lands, greatly benefit living beings and bring them peace and happiness. These Buddhas also, by means of countless innumerable skillful means, various causes and conditions, parables and expressions, expound the Dharma to living beings. These Dharmas are taught to prepare them for the Buddha vehicle. These living beings, having heard the Dharma from the Buddhas, will ultimately attain omniscient wisdom. Śāriputra, all these Buddhas intend to teach Bodhisattvas, because these Buddhas wish to show living beings the Buddha's knowledge and vision, to awaken them to the Buddha's knowledge and vision, and to lead them to realize the Buddha's knowledge and vision. Śāriputra, now I, too, knowing that living beings have all kinds of desires, to which their hearts are deeply attached, teach them the Dharma appropriate to their intrinsic dispositions, by means of various causes and conditions, parables, expressions, and the power of skillful means. Śāriputra, this is all done so that they may attain the Buddha vehicle and omniscient wisdom. Śāriputra, throughout the worlds of the 10 directions, the 2 vehicles do not exist, much less 3. Śāriputra, all Buddhas appear in the troubled world of the 5 turbidities, namely the turbidity of time, the turbidity of afflictions, the turbidity of living beings, the turbidity of views, and the turbidity of lifespans. Śāriputra, in the chaos of the turbidity of time, living beings are heavily tainted. Their stinginess, greed, and jealousy develop into unwholesome roots. Therefore, all Buddhas, through the power of skillful means, expound the 3 vehicles in order to teach the one Buddha vehicle. Śāriputra, if a disciple of mine calls himself an arhat or a Pratyekabuddha, but neither learns nor comes to realize of the matter that all the Buddhas, Tathagatas teach only bodhisattvas, then he is neither a disciple of the Buddha, nor is he an arhat or a Pratyekabuddha. Furthermore, Śāriputra, you should know that those bhikṣus and bhikṣuṇīs who claim to have attained arhatship and to be in their final incarnation, to have realized ultimate nirvana, and therefore do not aspire to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, are people of overbearing pride. Why? It would be impossible for any bhikshu who has actually attained arhatship to fail to believe this Dharma. The only exception would be when the Buddha has passed into stillness and there is no Buddha in the world. Why? After the Buddha's passage into stillness, it will be difficult to come across those who can uphold, read, recite, and understand sutras such as this one. Should they encounter other Buddhas, they will attain a thorough understanding of this Dharma. Śāriputra, all of you should single-mindedly believe, understand, and uphold the Buddha's words, for the Buddha's words are never false. There are no other vehicles. There is only the Buddha vehicle. At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke in verse. Bhikshus and bhikṣuṇīs of overbearing pride, arrogant upāsakas and doubting upāsikas, such ones as these, numbering 5,000 strong, blind to their own mistakes and deficient in morality, defend their flaws and blemishes. Those of petty wisdom such as these are gone. The chaff among the multitude, daunted by the Buddha's awe-inspiring virtue, withdrew. Those people who lack blessings and virtue are not able to accept this Dharma. This assembly is now free of branches and leaves. Only those true and steadfast in their faith remain. Śāriputra, listen carefully. The Dharma attained by all Buddhas is explained to living beings through the power of countless skillful means. The thoughts in living beings' minds, the various paths they have walked, their many interests and desires, and their good or bad karma from former lives are fully known to the Buddhas. With various conditions, parables, expressions, and the power of skillful means, the Buddhas cause living beings to rejoice. At times, they explain sutras, gathas, narratives of their disciples' past lives, stories of their former lives, and the unprecedented. They may also explain causes and conditions, or tell parables, gayas, and upadeshas. Those of dull faculties who delight in lesser dharma cling to birth and death. Even in the presence of countless Buddhas, they have not walked the profound, wondrous path and are vexed by scores of suffering. For them, the Buddhas teach nirvana. I developed these skillful means to enable them to realize the Buddha's wisdom. Never did I say, all of you will attain Buddhahood. I did not say that because the time to say it had not yet come. Now the time is exactly right. Hence, I have decided to teach the Great Vehicle. The 9 divisions of my Dharma are explained in accordance with living beings. To lead them into the Great Vehicle, I will teach the sutra. For the Buddha's disciples who are pure in heart, who are compliant and have keen faculties, who under countless Buddhas have walked the deep and wondrous path, I teach the Sutra of the Great Vehicle. I predict that such people in the future will realize Buddhahood. Because of their sincere mindfulness of the Buddha and their upholding of the pure precepts, hearing about their ensuing attainment of Buddhahood, their entire being will be suffused with great joy. I, the Buddha, know their thoughts and practices, so I teach the great vehicle for their sake. If Śrāvakas or Bodhisattvas hear this Dharma that I teach, be it but a single verse, they will without a doubt become Buddhas. In the Buddha lands throughout the 10 directions, there is only the Dharma of the one vehicle. There are neither 2 nor 3 vehicles, except when taught by the Buddhas as expedients. Existing as provisional appellations, they are used to guide living beings in order to teach the Buddha's wisdom. The Buddhas appear in the world. Only the one is real. The 2 and 3 are not. Never will the Buddhas save living beings through the lesser vehicle. The Buddhas themselves abide in the great vehicle. Using that Dharma they have attained, adorned with the power of samadhi and wisdom, they save living beings. Having realized the supreme path myself, the great vehicle Dharma that regards all equally, were I to teach even a single being by means of the lesser vehicle, I would have fallen into stinginess, but such a thing could never be. People who believe and take refuge with the Buddha know that the Tathagata never deceives. He is free from greed and envy, and apart from all evils. Therefore, throughout the 10 directions, the Buddha alone has nothing to fear. My body is adorned with exquisite hallmarks. Its resplendent light illuminates the world. Revered by countless multitudes, I explain the seal of ultimate reality for them. Śāriputra, you should know that in the past I vowed to lead the multitudes to be identical to me. That vow made long ago has now been fulfilled. Teaching all living beings, I have led them onto the Buddha's path. If I were to teach only the Buddha's path to every living being I meet, those lacking wisdom would be confused. In their perplexity, they would reject the teaching. I know that those living beings who have never cultivated good roots, who cling firmly to the 5 desires, become afflicted by delusion and passion. Because of all their desires, they fall into the 3 lower realms. Revolving on the wheel of the 6 destinies, they experience abject suffering. They assume fetal forms. Life after life, they continue to grow. With scant virtue and few blessings, they are beset by scores of sufferings. Entering the dense forest of wrong views of existence, non-existence, and others, 62 of them in all, they take these views as their premises. Deeply attached to non-ultimate practices, they cling to them firmly and cannot let them go. Arrogant, they brag of their loftiness. Generous with flattery, their hearts are insincere. Throughout 10 million kotis of eons, they never hear the Buddha's name, nor do they hear the proper Dharma. Such people are difficult to save. Therefore, Śāriputra, I devised skillful means for them, taught them various ways to end suffering, and guided them to nirvana. Although I taught nirvana, it was not ultimate stillness, as all phenomena are intrinsically in eternal stillness. When the Buddha's disciples walk the path, they will in a future age become Buddhas. I used the power of skillful means to explain the Dharma of the 3 vehicles, yet all the world-honored ones teach the Dharma of the one vehicle. Now all of you assembled here should cast your doubts aside. The words of the Buddha do not differ. There is only one vehicle, not 2. Throughout countless eons in the past, innumerable Buddhas attained nirvana, billions of kotis of them, their number beyond calculation. world-honored ones such as these employed various conditions, parables, and the power of countless skillful means to explain the characteristics of all phenomena. All of those world-honored ones teach only the Dharma of the one vehicle, inspiring countless living beings and leading them onto the Buddha's path. Furthermore, all great sagely lords know the deep desires in the hearts of gods, humans, and other beings throughout all the worlds. They use different expedients to help reveal the supreme truth. If living beings who met and heard the Dharma from Buddhas in the past, through acts of giving, upholding precepts, patience, vigor, dhyana, wisdom, and the like, accrued blessings and wisdom of all kinds, they have already realized Buddhahood. Suppose that after the parinirvana of the Buddhas, there were people with compliant hearts. All such living beings have already realized Buddhahood. After the parinirvana of the Buddhas, there were some who made offerings to their Sharira, built 10,000 kotis of stupas using gold, silver, crystal, giant clamshell, carnelian, rose quartz, and Vaidyarya pearl, in pure and extensive manner to adorn, embellish, and grace the stupas. There were some who built temples of stone, sandalwood, or agarwood, hovinia or other timbers, bricks, tiles, clay, and the like, and some who, in a barren waste, piled up earth into a Buddhist temple, or even children who, at play, heaped up sand to make a stupa. People such as these have all realized Buddhahood. People who, for the sake of the Buddhas, created various images, sculpted with myriad features, have all realized Buddhahood. Some may have used the 7 treasures, brass, red or white copper, pewter, lead or tin, iron, wood or clay, or perhaps a glazed cloth, in making Buddha images exquisitely adorned. People such as these have all realized Buddhahood. Those who painted colorful images of the Buddha, with the majestic hallmarks of myriad merits, whether doing it themselves or having others do it, have all realized Buddhahood. There may have been children at play who, with a straw, a stick, or a brush, or even with their fingernails, drew images of the Buddha. People such as these, gradually accumulating merit and perfecting great compassion, have all realized Buddhahood. Intending to teach only bodhisattvas, they rescue countless living beings. Should people in stupas or temples have made offerings with a reverent heart of flowers, incense, pennants, or canopies to jeweled or painted images? Or should they have presented offerings of wondrous sounds by asking others to play music, striking drums, blowing horns or conches, or playing panpipes, flutes, lutes, zithers, lyres, cymbals, or gongs? Or should they, with joyful hearts, have chanted even one note in praise of the Buddha's virtues? They have all realized Buddhahood. If people with scattered minds gave but a single flower as an offering to a painted image, they will eventually see innumerable Buddhas. If people bowed in worship, or merely placed their palms together, or raised a single hand, or gave a slight nod of the head in honoring the Buddha images, they will in due time see countless Buddhas, realize the unsurpassed path themselves, and rescue countless multitudes far and wide. They will pass into unconditioned nirvana, just as a fire goes out after consuming the firewood. If people with unfocused minds entered stupas or temples and said but once, Namo Buddha, they have all realized Buddhahood. Those who heard this Dharma, either in the presence of past Buddhas or after their parinirvana, have all realized Buddhahood. The world-honored ones of the future are countless in number. All of those Tathagatas will also teach the Dharma through skillful means. All of the Tathagatas, with countless skillful means, will lead all living beings across to realize the Buddha's non-outflow wisdom. Of those who have heard the Dharma, none will fail to become a Buddha. All the Buddhas have vowed, I wish to lead all living beings to attain the Buddha's path that I have walked. Although the Buddhas of the future will teach countless Dharma doors, hundreds of thousands of kotis of them, they are all in preparation for the one vehicle. All Buddhas, the venerable ones of dual perfection, know that phenomena never exist independently. The Buddha seed arises dependent on conditions. For this reason, the Buddhas teach only the one vehicle. All phenomena are just as they are. The characteristics of this world actually never change. Having understood this at the site of awakening, the guiding master teaches it through skillful means. The Buddhas of the present from the 10 directions, who receive offerings from gods and humans, their number like grains of sand in the Ganges, appear in the worlds. They too teach Dharma such as this, to bring peace and comfort to living beings. Understanding the ultimate stillness, they use the power of skillful means. Although they show various paths, all lead to the Buddha vehicle. Knowing the conduct of living beings, the thoughts deep within their hearts, the karma created by their past actions, their desires, inclinations, vigor, and their faculties, whether keen or dull, the Buddhas employ various causes and conditions, parables and verbal explanations, to expediently teach in accord with their circumstances. Now I too am like them. Using various Dharma doors, I expound the Buddha's path to bring peace and comfort to living beings. With the power of wisdom, I know living beings' inclinations and desires. Teaching the Dharma through skillful means, I enable them to attain bliss. Śāriputra, you should know that I perceive through my Buddha eye living beings in the 6 destinies, impoverished and bereft of blessings and wisdom. Entering the treacherous path of birth and death, where they suffer without respite, they are deeply attached to the 5 desires, like a yak chasing its own tail. Smothering themselves with greed and love, blinded as if in darkness, seeing nothing, they seek neither a Buddha with mighty power nor an end to their suffering. For the sake of those living beings who are entrenched in wrong views and try to cast off suffering by means of suffering, I give rise to great compassion. As I first sat at the site of awakening, I contemplatively walked about the tree. For a full 3 weeks, 3 times 7 days, I pondered over the following matter. The wisdom I have attained is subtle, superb, and foremost, but living beings are dull in faculty, fixated on pleasure and blinded by delusion. How could I possibly save living beings such as these? Just then the Brahmas, as well as the Chakras, the 4 heavenly kings who protect the world, the gods of great sovereign ease, and the rest of the heavenly multitudes, with their retinues of billions, reverently placed their palms together and requested that I turn the Dharma wheel. I then thought to myself, were I to praise only the Buddha vehicle, living beings enmeshed in suffering would be unable to believe this Dharma. In disbelief, they would slander the Dharma and fall into the 3 lower realms. I would rather not proclaim the Dharma and instead quickly enter parinirvana. Then I recalled the powerful skillful means utilized by the Buddhas of the past. The path that I have now attained should be taught through the 3 vehicles. When I thought of this, the Buddhas of the 10 directions appeared before me. In one pure voice, they reassured me, saying, "Excellent, O Shakyamuni, foremost guiding master. Having attained this unsurpassed Dharma, you follow the precedent of all Buddhas to employ the power of skillful means. We have all attained as well that most wonderful supreme Dharma. For the sake of all classes of living beings, we expounded the 3 vehicles. Those of little wisdom who delight in lesser Dharma would not believe that they could become Buddhas. For this reason, through skillful means, we taught various attainments. Although we taught the 3 vehicles, it was only for the sake of teaching Bodhisattvas. Śāriputra, you should know that when I heard the lions among sages, with their deep, pure, subtle, and wondrous voices, I responded by intoning homage to the Buddhas. Then I thought, having entered this troubled world of turbidities, as all Buddhas have taught, so should I follow. Having pondered this matter, I went directly to Varanasi. The ultimate stillness in all phenomena cannot be expressed in words. Therefore, through the power of skillful means, I instructed the 5 bhikṣus. This was called the turning of the Dharma wheel, whence emerged the sounds of nirvana, arhat, dharma, sangha, and various other terms. Since time immemorial, I have revealed and praised the Dharma of nirvana. As the eternal end to the suffering of birth and death, I have consistently taught this. Śāriputra, you should know, I see disciples of the Buddha resolutely seeking the Buddha's path, countless tens of millions of kotis of them. With reverent hearts, they come before the Buddha. From all Buddhas, they have heard Dharma expounded through skillful means. Then I had this thought. The reason the Tathagata appears is to teach the wisdom of the Buddhas, and now the time is exactly right. Śāriputra, you should know, those with dull faculties and slight wisdom, those attached to appearances and swelling with pride, cannot believe this Dharma. Now I am joyful and fearless. In the midst of the Bodhisattvas, I shall be forthright and abandon skillful means, teaching only the unsurpassed path. The Bodhisattvas, hearing this Dharma, will resolve their web of doubt. The 1,200 arhats present will all attain Buddhahood. As the Buddhas of the 3 periods of time taught the Dharma in such a manner, so do I likewise now teach the Dharma in the same manner. Coming into the worlds but once in a great while, Buddhas are difficult to encounter. When they do appear in the worlds, even more rare is their teaching of this Dharma. Throughout countless innumerable eons, it is also difficult to hear this Dharma. Those who can listen to this Dharma are even more difficult to come by. Just as the Udambara flower, appreciated and cherished by all, prized by gods and humans, blooms but once in a long, long time. People hearing this Dharma, praising it joyfully with but a single word, thereby make offerings to the Buddhas of the 3 periods of time. Such people are rare indeed, even more rare than the Udambara flower. None of you should have doubts, for I, being the Dharma king, announced to the entire assembly. With the one vehicle I teach and transform Bodhisattvas, Śrāvaka disciples are not ready. Śāriputra, all of you, both Śrāvakas and Bodhisattvas, should know that this wondrous Dharma is the esoteric essence of all Buddhas. In the troubled world of the five turbidities, living beings are attached to various desires. Beings such as these would never aspire to Buddhahood. The immoral of the future, hearing the Buddha teach the one vehicle, in their delusion will not accept or believe it. Criticizing it, they will fall into the lower realms. There are those with shame and purity who aspire to Buddhahood. For them and all others such as them, I praise far and wide the path of the one vehicle. Śāriputra, you should know, the Dharma of all Buddhas is thus. Through 10,000 kotis of skillful means, they teach Dharma in accord with what is appropriate. Those who do not study or practice it will never come to understand it. Since all of you already know that the Buddhas, teachers of the world, use appropriate skillful means, you should no longer have doubts. Let your hearts be filled with joy, confident that you will reach Buddhahood.